Okay, I think we're live. Live. Okay, so there are there have been a lot of things going on. There's been a lot going on this year. Just outright. Let's talk about this year. This year, there's been a lot, and let's talk specifically about what I've been working on this year and what I've been creating because I started the year working on basically a security information and event management platform for homes that's open source that people can use. And along my journey of trying to build a home security information and event management system and center for building security operation centers at home so that you can have nice security operation centers in the comfort of your home to keep your house more safe and more secure. Well, it started that way. And even before that, we had hacking tournaments, and hacking tournaments turned into building a sim, and then building a sim turned into creating simulations like cloud simulations, and then like pen testing. It just, and then it just got to the point where I ended up creating a whole developer platform because I kept creating more and more things, and I needed a way to rapidly develop. And then I realized that other developers need the same kind of thing, because generally speaking, you have different types of people in the tech sphere. You have folks who like hardware, folks who like software, folks who like just being purely into code, or you just different folks, different things. Some people who are kind of in the middle. And then you have those who like to go and work on teams as the person who's the socialite amongst the engineers who doesn't actually know any code or anything about hardware. They're just the one person among the engineers who's also somehow an engineer, so who just ends up being called who's just the social one. There's actually a business use for that. For having someone who's technically a software engineer who's good at getting along with people on a team of software engineers who don't get along with people even if they don't know code very well. So that's why sometimes you see that exist, or sometimes there's just favoritism at companies. But anyways, I made this platform. At first it was called the Assault Grid, and then it ended up becoming called the Olympiad, is what the name ultimately settled to. And as you can see, we have this lovely dashboard back here, and anyone who's heard of Grafana before, this dashboard is indeed Grafana. But a nice thing about Grafana and all these other things is, let's say that you want, if you don't know what Grafana is, it's just a way to make beautiful dashboards with your tools. And it runs in the ecosystem that we've created and all of these good bits. And so really, if you're trying to develop, the main thing that I wanted to do was come up with a way to just help automate more, help automate development so that it's faster and less cumbersome. And I'm just going to put something on the screen real quick here because really it all kind of turned into this box. Everything that we started doing kind of turned into this box. And really it's not even about the box, because what we do is in infrastructure as code. So it's software really. But we do have our own preferred minimum hardware that we like to run on, which we have. We started creating developer kits to make it easier for developers to go ahead and start working right away, instead of having to come up with all these other things. And we've got different models and all that good stuff, as you can see on the left-hand side here. But really, we created a toolbox for automating the construction of cloud in a more secure way. And then on top of that, it has built-in SIM functionality. It also has built-in functionality to be turned into security operation centers for your home or small office or business. So really, it's kind of built for people who work from home. So if you're a home developer and you need to have like a way to develop at home for like a big environment that's somewhere far, far away, whether it be like Kubernetes or something along those lines, because Kubernetes is the cloud standard that you see in the wild. I guess the big one is just that this tool is designed to make it easy, like to automate the development so that you don't have to know necessarily even what you're doing all the time. You might not know how to configure all these different tools or configure certain things, but so I've been working on automation that's what you call agnostic automation, where, say, this little tiny box right here, this little teeny tiny box right here, You can install tools like one of the main driver of our tool suite is with Terraform, and then Terraform then deploys the rest of the suite, and it's a very specific architecture with very specific stacks and very specific things. But if you're trying to develop cloud and you already know how to use tools, that's great, because then it's just like all of your favorite tools in one place. You could think of it like the Olympiad is kind of like Kali Linux for cloud development. I guess that's the way that I think about it, because Kali Linux is an operating system for pen testers, really, with convenient tools that pen testers use and need, so you can just get to your pen testing faster. And I'm both a pen tester and a developer, and so I wanted to create something that had pen testing tools and all that good stuff, sure. But really, the big one that I wanted is something that made it easier for me to just like get to the code, and then anyone else who develops with me just get to the code, and anyone else who's not even me or working with me who's just like, I just want to get to the code. I just want to like make things faster. And infrastructure in a way where you have all of your development resources in one place. If you've ever heard of like GitOps and things like that, it makes it really easy to have all of your GitOps in one place for your DevOps. And then better yet, it also adds security to the layer as well. So let's just take a quick little tour around what we have going on here in this development suite, because this is a development suite for developing cloud, right? So if I'm claiming that I created this development suite for developing cloud, and this is supposedly, I talk about the Olympiad a lot, but why don't we start taking a look at this thing actually configured and in action and doing really what it's supposed to be doing. So right here, this dashboard, the purpose of this dashboard that you're looking at, and this is still under construction, this is something that I'm still working on, but this is a little bit of a bit of a preview to show you like what's the ultimate thing right here. This is going to be a master dashboard. Well, it already is a master dashboard. So if you join the DevSecOps dojo, I can already get you up and running on whatever you're trying to develop, all that good stuff. I run this dojo to teach the skills to create things like this. But this dashboard, it's designed to centralize. It's designed to centralize everything going on in your environment. It's going to show security data and security metrics. It's designed to show development metrics, so it's making it easier to troubleshoot what you're trying to do and debug and all that good stuff, and all these other different benefits. But really, what data do we send here? Because what ends up showing up on this dashboard. So let's first go and take a look at what we have under the hood here in order to make these pretty little dashboards. Right here, this is something called Portainer. But once again, Kali Linux. Kali Linux is an operating system for pen testers, if anyone's heard of Kali Linux, that just has a whole bunch of, pre-built pen testing tools in it. So what the Olympiad has is, the Olympiad has default tools that make cloud development easier, that are pretty cloud standard. So a cloud standard tool that a lot of developers really like using, including myself, is Portainer. And then there's another one called Rancher, but Rancher is something that I use with Kubernetes, which is technically part of the suite too. For those of you who know what Portainer and Rancher is, technically I use both in this environment and how it's built. This whole setup is designed to basically run all of the operating system's applications and anything that you'd need for development out of containers. And then you have a whole bunch of Docker containers that make it easy to do development for really containers that are going to be used for Kubernetes. And then if anyone's ever heard of like K3D or Kubernetes in Docker, so here's a little information for those of you who know a little more about what Kubernetes is and Docker is and all that good stuff. If I click on volumes right here, you can see that this says K3D. This is for Kubernetes clusters that live in containerized structures and formats, even though you can't really see that. For anyone who is a little more senior and deals with Kubernetes and deals with Docker and all that good stuff. I prefer developing with Docker, which is why the Olympiad uses Docker for development and uses connections for Kubernetes for production, and it's designed for Kubernetes production environments. That's what this whole thing's designed for. And then it's designed with security first, so that developers, like, let's say that you have a bunch of people working from home. So my entire team works from home. And with my entire team working from home, whatever they're doing, I don't want to deal with, the people who are working on the stuff. I don't want to deal with their home network security risks. And so I want to protect myself from, people even from my own home. I want to protect myself from my own home environment too. And then whoever else is working with us, maybe they have kids, maybe they don't have kids, maybe they have roommates or who knows what, but other people in the house. And even if they're security conscious or security minded, someone in any given household is going to be clicking on who knows what. And, home networks have terrifying things swimming around that you don't really want to deal with. And so what I do is I just send everyone on my team a box, and then I have my own, and then all of them cluster together in what's called edge computing, for anyone who knows what edge computing is. And then this becomes a little router for my development where, I might use my laptop or something along those lines, but then I connect to this, and then this is, connected to a VPN, and then it connects me to all of the other developers. So this right here, this unites all of the developers together, where all of the developers together can see, all of the tools that everyone's working on, share resources, share tools, and collaborate, and it makes collaboration easy. The real big benefit of this architecture that we've been putting together is it makes it easy to collaborate as developers. And if I move my face over to the side and pull up the little architecture map again. So this little architecture map to the right that you can see here kind of explain what's going on with this. Actually, let me move my face a little more too. So let me move my face up here somewhere. And I'm going to click on this thing that lets me visualize all of the little cluster pieces in the cluster. So what you're looking at are different nodes in a computing environment. Like basically it's a little miniature cloud sitting on my desk, right? And on the little diagram, you can see that there are these blue squares and these green squares, and one of them says Inner Athena, one says Gorgon Gaze, one says Cerberus. But each one of these are just little computing systems that sit on a desk and then connect to my other developers' desks, so that we're all together, we all unite as one, and it has resources for monitoring the network and monitoring my local resources so that I know what's going on with my stuff, and then it has resources for also doing some like basic DNS and DHCP monitoring, and also like some traffic control to make whatever you're working on a little more secure, where if there's something suspicious or strange going on in your environment, you have tools and means to like block what's going on, and you can set up sinkholes and things like that to keep your development safe, keep your development secure. You don't want your development infrastructure to be at high risk, and the only way to make sure that your infrastructure is not at high risk is with monitoring all day long. So this whole environment is not just built for development, but it's built for monitoring. But the benefit that developers get is that, we automate the monitoring pieces for folks so that the developers don't have to worry about that part. Developers don't unless they're debugging and using logging information for debugging, they just want to be able to work oftentimes. Some developers like to get into other things, but usually developers prefer to live in code. Depends on the developer, I guess. I like hardware and code, which is probably why I'm into. So what this is designed for is infrastructure as code, and it automates the deployment, once again, automates the deployment of cloud infrastructure. And one of the key tools that comes from is something called Terraform. If anyone's ever heard of Terraform, and you can see right here, I have a Terraform construction demo from the workshop. I did a Terraform workshop today to show what that looks like. And we actually built a Terraform toolbox just a little over an hour ago. And for those who missed that, Well, I guess you missed it. Yeah, but we have a DevSecOps dojo where I teach these same skills, where you can learn how to automate hundreds of thousands of systems and nodes, just with this one little tool, and have one thing set everything else up for you and get everything looking good, looking spiffy and shiny and whatever else you want to call it, but keeps things looking good. So moving on to like other interesting things that we've done with this is this environment is wild. So let me just go through all the dashboards that we have here, because this whole thing, it has a number of dashboards for reasons. But let me move this architecture map again. Actually, I guess I don't need to move the architecture map. I'll just put this window like this, and then we can see everything. Let's move my face again. And let's take a look at some of these dashboards that we have swimming around here. So I'll shrink my big head and move my face. Move my face out of the way. So if we just take a look at some of the dashboards on here, so we have enterprise network monitoring for just making sure that the developer environment and developer ecosystem is safe, happy, secure. So DevSecOps, right? So all of this is for what's called DevSecOps. And so if you're trying to get into cloud and cloud DevSecOps, this is a cloud DevSecOps platform and tool. And so then we have, additional monitoring where we have dashboards where we can monitor specific services, make sure that all of our appropriate services are running and doing the things that they need to be doing. And when we're developing, we do have some critical services that, as a developer, if certain critical services go down that we're trying to work with, that can be problematic. And so we want to monitor those things. Not even just for, in the scenario and event of getting hacked, but also just in the scenario and event of you just want to know if like a system goes down too. What if you had a bug that did something weird? You need to know. And then once again, we have more ways to monitor your network and see what's going on. And this is just dashboards anyways for anyone who's trying to have like security operations center functionality. But then you can look at the system metrics and functionality as well and see, how all of that's going. You can take a look at other systems coming in, which would be otherwise referred to as workers. And so, yeah, you can take a look at, additional systems, help monitor other people. So if you have like an administrator can basically manage a lot of this stuff for a developer team, where the developers can just get to the code, and then you have like an admin who just makes sure that all of the developers can get to the code. And it keeps it simple. And if everyone's working from home, then it's like you have this significant layer of security thanks to edge computing and Kubernetes and Docker. Thank you, edge computing. I love edge computing. If you don't know what edge computing is, that's a Google rabbit hole you should definitely go down. It's basically where you have what's called a hybrid cloud or a multi-cloud, whatever you want to call it. If it's private, it would technically be, if it's a private cloud that's in a deep web, that would be more hybrid cloud. If you're not using like a private cloud or a deep web that, design with everything that you're doing, because I use a deep web, but I don't know if everyone wants to use a deep web, then that would just be multi-cloud technically, where you have different clouds that work together. And so, if you have a cloud of developers, and this would be, put this on a bunch of people's desks, you get what's called a distributed edge computing cloud mesh that then turns everyone's home location who's working from home with this design, where they're all basically working from one supercomputer that is a distributed worldwide supercomputer is what that is. So then that connects to the company's production supercomputer is what that is. So then we want to have security, like basic security functionality. And so one thing that's really important is the ability to use regular expressions to block things that are suspicious and coming in the environment and network. And so, people may or may not have seen Pi-hole before, and I could have started by showing Pi-hole dashboards. But the reality is most people almost only know what Pi-hole dashboards are. And so if you've seen Pi-hole before, you've seen the dashboards. We'll look at that after we look at this. What's more important to a developer like dealing with the regex and stuff like that, setting up like DNS, DHCP, like centralization. You can set up sinkholes with this. You can set up multiple pi holes and like internal networks. And like, let's say that there's a suspicious connection that comes into an environment. You can set up 2 pi holes where you can set up like a pi hole landmine that the suspicious connection gets sent over to this other sinkhole pi hole that then like prevents them from being able to see or do anything, or however you want to do it. But then you can do a lot of that with regular expressions here, and with blacklist management with regular expressions, or regex, which is the same as regular expressions. So you can use regex to basically protect your deployments, protect your stuff. And this isn't even the half of it. So it's like then we have the dashboard as well, where you can take a look at all of the beautiful things in the glorious dashboard. Let's see. Let me see if I can show a little more here, maybe. So let's see. Getting back to this thing. Let's get this back over here. So then, of course, Pi-hole does have data that you can work with and see and all that good stuff, and you can set up little dashboards with Pi-hole. It by default it blocks malware and ads, and then you can use it to identify malware and things like that too. It's good for that. It's good for a lot of things, and it also can be used as a DHCP server, not just a DNS server. It has a lot of functionality that I think a lot of folks aren't even aware of. It's outstanding for business use and for developer use and security, and also keeping your home staff, who are your remote workers, safe, things like that. It's easy security that's rapidly deployable, and then all of that data, all those different dashboards, all that data can then be sent to this, and then you can have like the one dashboard that sees all of the things, the one dashboard that sees it all. Now, I haven't organized this right now. Right now, I've just kind of set it up to be pretty, just for the sake of pretty things, because it's like art with data. I mean, why not? But really, at some point, I'll make a more functional one to demo with. You can do all kinds of things with this sort of thing. I really like this thing. Like, look at this beautiful dashboard with my face not impeding all of the beauty and glory. Anyways, you can design these dashboards in whatever way suits you, or whatever you're interested in doing, or whatever you're trying to do. And this is a great tool for creating security operation centers, but you do have to set up additional things to send data to it, which is why it's like, well, what can we use to send data to it? Well, there's all kinds of things that send data to this dashboard for us to have better visibility into whatever we're trying to do. And that, is like NEMS right here. This sends data over to it. The Pi-hole can send data over to it. All these things can send data over to this. And then you can also collect additional data from all kinds of things. You just get data and more data. I mean, data. So I guess there you have it. So this makes it easy to just set up dashboards. And setting up dashboards, that's quite a nice thing. So for businesses, once again, centralization. A single looking lens to where you can see like what's going on with all of your developers. What's going on with all of your developers' development. What's going on with like the project stuff, or even security stuff, or like risks and all these crazy things, right? Because it could be crazy. The world's a crazy place. Technology is crazy. Everything's crazy. I'm crazy too. And we can get past that one. But either way, priorities. So that's the Olympiad in a nutshell. Some cool things to go with it is this is probably not that interesting to folks who aren't ultra techie. But like Terraform, I am so into Terraform. I need to find a good way to demo Terraform beyond doing like a 2-hour long lesson. So I did like a 2-hour long lesson on how to build a Terraform construction node. And you can set up a Terraform construction node to like set up your dashboards for you, and you can have like default dashboards. And like this is designed to build your own custom. Like this is for custom development, custom stuff. But then the use of Terraform allows you to save and automate your custom work so that your time investment goes a long ways versus, because we all know that custom takes time. And so if you're trying to build tools and all these things, like the downside of open source oftentimes is the time investment, but using things like using automation with open source is a game changer. Because automation with open source, it basically resolves one of the #1 issues with open source is open source tends to be a massive time sink. And just like a massive time investment. So that's the benefits of automation. If you're in tech and you don't know that automation's valuable, then just know that automation is amazing. Now, for things that are not open source, you know, you have like service licenses and service teams and support desks and all these other things to really make up for that. But yeah, so that is, you know, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and whiteboard a little bit on, you know, what exactly does this sort of thing do? So we had a workshop earlier. I want to talk a little more about. So let's just illustrate this. Let's do it. Let me move my face again. Okay, so let me work with this. Sticky. Okay, so if we have the Olympiad, right? And you are a developer, so we're just going to create a scenario of like, what is this made for? Why did I make this? So if we have the Olympiad, and then we have to have someone who uses it, so we're going to say like, who is the Olympiad for? Really, developers. Well, more specifically, cloud developers, ideally for DevSecOps. It's a DevSecOps tool. That's what it is. So if you aren't a cloud developer, or if you don't want to be a cloud developer, the Olympiad probably doesn't have much of a use case, unless you're trying to build a cloud at home. So if you want to build a cloud at home, I mean, the Olympiad's free. Honestly, the foundation of the Olympiad, which this is going to get updated so that you can, this does not have guidance on how to set up that dashboard, but it has guidance on setting up like the, basically setting up the base foundation that all of this sits on top of with, you know, Docker and a special thing, like a special network and a pen testing tool for pen testing cloud, you know, all that good stuff. This is free. This is something that anyone and everyone can go onto our website at noshapoint.com and go check out the Olympiad's the foundational configuration. Now, let's say that you go further beyond the foundational configuration, and I'm going to be releasing guidance and more documentation on this soon. But what we've added is, basically, I'm adding some really complex Terraform configurations that are specifically designed. And Terraform, it lets you deploy to whatever you want. So let's get into this, because this is fascinating. So what can the Olympiad deploy cloud to, right? AWS, right? Azure, Google Cloud, just about anything. So if it's infrastructure, Terraform is designed to help automate the deployment of infrastructure. That's what it's there for. So let's draw a little arrow here. So we have our Olympiad. It has some things. We then construct a Terraform construction container in here, and then Terraform can then just go over here and just fabricate whatever we want in this. And so let's say, you know, what are we trying to deploy? Let's say that someone says, well, I have 100 servers that I want to cluster together. Okay, Terraform can automate it. So we could say So we're going to say automates deployment, like cloud deployment, right? And development. So this helps automate cloud deployment and development. So we're going to set that right there. It's wonderful, handy dandy thing. That's what this does. Which that's too many words. I'm just going to make it a little less messy. There we go. So automates cloud deployment. And so let's say that you know, do we want to do 10 so we could automatically build a 10 server cluster. Or if we really wanted to, we could also alternatively we could build a 10,000 server cluster. Actually, really, it's more like 5,000 is a recommended limit when you're trying to work with clusters and things like that, especially like Kubernetes, right? And so then, finally, you know, what lives where? We have Docker for development, and then we have Kubernetes for production. And there you have it. And it can just do it. It can just automatically do the stuff. You do have to develop, so it's a toolbox for developers. So if you're not a developer, or you're not trying to become a developer, like it's not the most straightforward thing for someone who, like, you know, it's for developers, I guess. So it's very much so, I guess, a business tool, and it's designed for large scale projects. So if you're trying to work with large scale, like, I don't know, like multi-million-dollar infrastructure or multi-million-dollar, it's really built for multi-million-dollar environments. That's what it's built for, with like thousands of servers and other things. And of course, you can use it for anything smaller than that, and then it's all built off of open source, so it's not going to cost you anything to construct yourself an Olympiad design. And then it uses edge-based computing, which edge-based computing is where right here it's like, you know, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, or whatever cloud we're running, this would be referred to as, you know, like our production cloud. So we call that production. And then this little environment over here, like basically this is edge. So if any, you can Google what edge is. It's awesome. Edge computing. I love edge computing. And it's distributed, so, you know, why not? And so the Olympiad sits on your desk, and it sets up scalable developer resources. The cool thing about it is, with every single new developer that you introduce into your environment, so let's say you go and you hire another developer, or you go, you know, have a large team or however have you. One problem that I ran into in the past is when I was doing development in the security space, you know, infrastructure is expensive. And so if the company, well, used to be, now infrastructure is much more affordable than it used to be thanks to little things like this. When I was developing, this didn't exist. This hardware didn't exist. Not at all. And so the only option we had when I was doing this work was like stupid expensive infrastructure and super expensive gear. And so I'd be like, oh, we need development infrastructure. And they'd be like, oh, we can't afford to get you development infrastructure. So what would they have us do? You know, we could go down to IT and see if they have any old laptops. And then we'd cluster together a bunch of old laptops that are old used laptops and develop on those, right? Which is fine, I guess. You know, it works. But even so, a lot of those laptops, the wholesale price of those laptops when they were first purchased and stuff were like $2,000, $1,000 laptops. That's not cheap either. Now, of course, those are old, decommissioned, so it's like at least friendly on the budget when you're using old hardware and stuff like that. But still, like, technology has become so much more affordable that now, instead of having to go down to IT and beg for developer resources or hope that the company has a budget for developer resources, or let's say that you start growing rapidly and then all of a sudden you run into a scenario where you were growing rapidly, but all of a sudden your growth is stifled because you're running low on developer resources and you spent so much budget on your staff. That's a complicated situation to be in as a business owner, a business person. So if you are a business person and you're trying to figure this stuff out, save yourself some insanity. Because these, like things like this, for every person that you hire, just give them one of these and then it automatically scales more developer resources per hire. And then this person, you know that this person has the same amount of resources as the last developer. You know that everyone has the same, and then it's easier to standardize. And then it's easier to build company processes. And then it's easier to have better security. And then it's easier for your developers to work quickly. And then you don't have to worry about outages as much because, oh, what happens if you have an outage with even your AWS or your Azure, but your developers have their own developer resources and assets? Not a big deal because you can keep doing your development resources or development work on your edge computing environment where you basically do all of your GitOps or whatever else you're trying to do, or your SecOps or, you know, all that good stuff. And then on top of that, you can set beautiful dashboards, data art. You know, ideally, you would be structuring it for your business, which is a custom thing where you're sending in data, you know, to the admin to properly organize this so that you have security operations center, where you might have to set up a number of other things and alerts and stuff like that. But that's all being automated anyways, and then you use Terraform, and Terraform makes all that extra setup not a big deal. Just use Terraform. Terraform the whole thing. It really cuts down on long-term time investment when you're trying to do custom, because custom is time consuming. And building your own custom tools and software and solutions and all that stuff also comes with other benefits. Is with all of this being license free, this stuff doesn't have licenses. This becomes an asset that you own. Code assets. These become your owned code assets that you yourself own, because it's code. Well, I guess the licensing, like open source, like you don't own Grafana or however have you. But, you know, then you could turn that around and turn that into a product of some sort. And then if you wanted to, you could then sell a product from what you originally were just using to defend your own developers, you know? And so assets, it gives you assets as well. So, and then you just keep building on top of it. That's the joy of software. It just scales infinitely, and it just keeps scaling. And then what happens when the new generation of hardware comes out for these tiny little things that we use, these tiny little supercomputers? Like, it'll only get more powerful, and the solutions we use they're all scalable, and it's all agnostic, where you can have like different types of hardware playing nicely together. You can have a laptop clustered with a Raspberry Pi, clustered with a big beefy desktop server, clustered with you might have to do different things and whatnot, and you have to think about like x86 versus ARM. You might have to emulate something or put a wrapper on something, and you might have to do all this other stuff too. But once again, Terraform is here to also simplify the whole process, because with Terraform, you can simplify every single one of those things and have, like, you know, standard little code saved things for your Terraform that you do, and just write a whole bunch of Terraform code. Just write a whole bunch of Terraform code. I love Terraform. If anyone ever wants to know more about Terraform, talk to me. I love Terraform. But you know, obviously what we do is a lot more than just Terraform. Terraform is the not so exciting, but like it's easier for me to show the pretty dashboard than it is for me to like show Terraform. I guess I could show like what it looks like to do something with it. I don't know. I could generate a little tutorial note or something. Let's see if I can do that real quick off of memory. So let's just create a little, let's automatically deploy a container, even with an error. It'll probably give me an error. So I'm going to say Oh. Mm. Okay, so let's see. Let me move my face a little bit. So this is Terraform. You can't really. It's really anticlimactic, but hey, Terraform has successfully initiated, and I'm going to tell Terraform to create a tutorial container for me. So I'm just going to say Terraform apply. Let's go. And Terraform's going to do something and start setting up a little nginx server. And this is pretty much the end of the thing. So let's see. So right here, I just created this little, well, you can see it's blue. That little blue thing is what I just created. It's a new container. But Terraform can create more than containers. You can have Terraform set up and configure an entire one of these kits. You can have Terraform set up and configure your laptop for you, your friend's laptop for you, your friend's laptop for you, your business's stuff for you, your entire business for you. You can have it just set up everything for everyone if you want. You can just have it set up the world, I guess, for that matter. And then, of course, you have to decide what you want it to do. That's the joy of infrastructure as code, is you have to decide what do you want to do, because you can do just about anything. Just about anything is what you can do. So I'll calm down now. We'll start winding down this demo because we have a holiday party to do. And there's a reason why I'm wearing this amazing, ugly sweater. I don't think it's so ugly. I think it's just as incredible as Terraform. No, actually, if anyone has probably noticed, I really like Star Wars, even if I don't necessarily like all of the movies. But that doesn't change the fact that I really like Star Wars, so that's kind of a thing. So I got my ugly sweater ready because we're about to do some games. For anyone who's curious about this holiday party that we're doing, we're going to be giving away a Jetson Nano to a winner. We're going to have a regex quick draw game with regular expressions. We're going to learn some basic regular expressions. This will be a beginner level lesson in this thing, and then we're going to have some technical trivia prizes with that. We're going to have we're just going to have a whole bunch of fun games. So I'm getting ready to play games myself, and we're getting ready to start doing all that good stuff. And then anyone who's in the Facebook group will be able to participate in the game. So if you want to participate in the games and you want to do win some workshops, win a Jetson Nano, maybe win the Pied Hacker Experience. The Pied Hacker Experience has helped. Well, the Pied Hacker Experience uses the Olympiad. So if you want to learn how to use the Olympiad, go win the Pied Hacker Experience, and you'll learn how to use the Olympiad. But you'll also learn DevSecOps, because really the Olympiad it's just a DevSecOps tool built from industry standard tools that the industry uses. So all of the tools in the Olympiad, I didn't invent all of the little tools in the Olympiad. I didn't create all of the little tools in the Olympiad. I created the Olympiad, which is a tool suite. So, we've seen toolboxes. I created the box that the tools are in, and it's, in the form of code, containers, hardware, and then really the Olympiad works on more than just Raspberry Pis. It works on anything that runs Docker, really. Maybe minus the pen testing box. There's a pen testing box called Athena 0, but you can use Kali Linux instead of that for anyone who knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, you could win some prizes. You could learn how all these things work. So anyways, look forward to seeing everyone in the party. And that sums up the demo. And I showed a little bit of a Terraform demo too, even though it's not as exciting as these glorious dashboards. These dashboards are much more exciting in my opinion. So, okay. Well, thank you everyone for watching. And thank you everyone for being who you are. So I appreciate you. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. So we'll be back on soon. So you'll see another stream popping up very shortly. And that's the one where you're going to see people from the community, not just me. So that stream is going to be starting soon, but be in the Facebook group. Let's see, what time is it now? Pretty soon here. Like 5 minutes. So join the Facebook group, and within 5 minutes, we're going to have an invite that pops up for a Google Meet in the Facebook group, and everyone can join. the Facebook group there. Or I mean, everyone can join from the Facebook group there, and then that way you'll be able to participate in all of the games and potentially win prizes, all that good stuff. So I hope to see you there. I'm heading over to the Facebook group myself. If you're watching from Facebook already, then you're already set. If you're not, feel free to send. You need to join the Facebook group called the Notia Squad. Feel free to send me a direct message, or I can let me just add the link to it real quick, to the Facebook group for anyone who's trying to get in on this. So I'll go over to LinkedIn and drop the link there. So join the party for prizes here. Okay, so that's the Facebook group there, and then let me go do the same thing on YouTube. And we'll have the link as soon as I get the link in there. Here is the Facebook group link. So now I'm just adding it in